Welcome, and first of all, I want to thank the judges. I want to thank Veterans Florida for putting on this event. It's been fantastic. Seeing some of the pitches, and this whole thing has just been great for the veterans. My name is Brian Andrews. We are Andrews Nautical. I'm a former Navy veteran, and 6.5 years on an Aegis cruiser. I think 2/3 of the Earth is water. That's what we Navy people like to say. So what our mission really is, and I'll get straight to this, is we're really trying to make safer, cleaner boating for everybody. And so as Andrews Nautical, our mission is to take some advanced technologies I've worked in throughout my career. Started as a RF engineer working on Aegis cruisers, Spy 1 Bravo radar, if you're familiar with that. Parlayed that into electrical engineering degree, and then eventually a systems engineering degree. And so I've been working for the Air Force and Navy, designing kind of DoD systems, most of them classified I can't talk about. So that's kind of my background. The other presenter we have up here is my son.
I'm James Andrews. I'm an undergrad senior studying electrical engineering, and I've helped a lot with the development of the product we're going to show you today.
So what are we trying to do? How did we stumble upon our problem? During the COVID lockdown, everybody was kind of binge watching things. My wife and I decided to start binge watching this YouTube couple, and not couples, a family, 4 kids. They sold their house, everything, went down to Florida, bought a boat, and started sailing around the world. Great thing to do during COVID, so not a bad idea. About halfway across the Pacific, their propeller, they were motor sailing, propeller got fouled, and they sent their teenage son in the middle of the dark, 1,000 feet of water, to go unfoul the propeller. When they got to Australia after that, they realized that we need some way to see under the boat. So they pulled their boat out of the water, and there in Australia, they were putting underwater lighting on their boat. And the dad was sitting there with a drill, about to drill into the hull underneath the water line. And the mom's filming, going, something doesn't seem right about this. I don't get a really good warm fuzzy. So I immediately looked at my wife and said, hey, I don't think we have to do this. And I thought of a better way to do it. And so we went immediately to the Palm Beach Boat Show the next weekend, bought a ticket, looked around. Every lighting manufacturer under there was basically doing what this is right here. So this is a traditional light. It's got a cable out the back. They're drilling a hole underneath the water line, running the cable through, putting some epoxy in, crossing their fingers, you know, hey, hopefully this will work. So the question is, do you have to drill a hole underneath your hull to put underwater lighting in?
No. So our patent pending solution allows you to wirelessly transfer power through the hull of your boat. Therefore, you don't have to drill any holes underneath the water line in your boat. The way it works is very simple. As you can see, we have 2 parts, a transmitter, which is that black box, and the light itself. We're currently experimenting with different shapes and colors to try and figure out what is aesthetically pleasing and what people appreciate when it comes to different designs. So here are some more shapes and colors that we've had conceptual designs of. And so here's some of the advantages of our unique product. The first one is your hull integrity is maintained. So because you don't have to drill a hole in your boat, if something happens and the vessel shifts at all, there's not going to be a leak. The other advantage is the ease of installation. The installation process is very simple. You simply epoxy the transmitter to the inside of the hull, and you epoxy a light to the outside. And you can even do this while the vessel's still in the water with underwater curing epoxy. Another thing about underwater lighting is it's not just all about aesthetics. There's a big safety factor as well. For instance, while you're traveling in your boat at night, there's many obstacles under the dark water that you might not normally be able to see. Now, traditionally, underwater lighting is rarely placed in the forward or the bow of a vessel, and the reason is because there's a lot of high-pressure water coming from that direction, and traditional lights have holes. Since we don't have a hole, we can now put lights anywhere under the boat that you may want, and you can see things before they hit your boat, like manatees, coral heads, or other obstructions under the water.
All right, would you guys like to see a demo? So this is our light. I'm going to put it on the thing here. Hopefully this underwater tape holds. It's always a challenge. This is our transmitter box. So this is just mimicking a 12-volt battery that you would see in your boat, and every boat has. So as you can see, when I come up here and put the transmitter box, we have underwater light. You'd have a switch on your console to turn it on and off, and we're even developing right now an app so you could do it from your phone. Don't need to be internet connected, just a Bluetooth connection with a color wheel as we go into colored lights, and different brightnesses that you can all change with the app. So that's kind of the demo. And again, what's nice about this is if you put your light on, it's not in the right area, it's not lighting up where you want, real easy to move. I don't have to patch a hole and re-drill a hole. I don't even have to worry really what's on the other side of the bulkhead, because I'm not going to drill into structure or anything that a tank, gas tank, you wouldn't want to drill into that, but you don't have to worry about that with this. All right, so competition. Right now, there's our competition up on the board. Lumitech has sold over 200,000 lights. This is a growing industry. About 4 or 5 years ago, it really started taking off as a cool factor. But as my son alluded to, it's really more than cool. They're realizing the safety that is involved with having your boat lit underwater. Not just for safety of traveling through the water, but other boats being able to see you at night, kind of like daytime running lights on a car, or night dives. We're both divers. We go down on a night dive. It's tough to find the boat sometimes. Flip on underwater lighting, glows like, the sun, easy to find the boat, get back to your safety so you don't get left behind. We've all seen that movie. But as you can see, some of these holes that you drill right there is that light, it's a pretty big hole. So that's a sizable hole, and if that light, comes off or breaks open, that's a lot of water coming into your boat. So market size, there's over almost 1 million registered boats in the state of Florida. Michigan and Minnesota come in about 800,000 each. There's a lot of registered boats out there. We went to several boat shows speaking with consumers about this. The 2 reasons that they didn't want to put underwater lighting on, one obviously that we talked about, don't want to drill a hole. The second is the cost of installation. If you got a 50-foot catamaran, you have to pull it out of the water, about $400 or $500 for that. Do all the curing epoxy 2 days on the hard, and then put it back in another $400 or $500. You could be in $1,000, you haven't even bought a light yet. So this ease of installation, we think is a really, eliminates one of the barriers that they have, a resistance to underwater lighting. So revenue streams, right? How are we going to make money on this? Direct sales, obviously, both to, direct to consumers for the do-it-yourselfer. Also look at OEMs, boat manufacturers, so they can do it, at the manufacturer level. It cuts down on their time, so they get the boats out faster, a little less installation cost, increase their profit margin there. And then also selling to retailers like West Marine, groups like that would be the direct sales. Insurance and protection plan, just like the Best Buy, right? You go buy the electronics and they say, hey, you want to insure it or, protect it for $30, and then you can get a replacement. We'll have something like that for our light, so if something happens to it, we'll give them either a free replacement or fix it, whatever it needs to be done. And then the last one's installation. Having professional installers go out and install the boat. We're going to, obviously, as the designers of the light, work on the installation crews early on, and then we'll decide if we want to make that a business or not. So what's next for us? We've developed the prototypes. I've got 4 different shapes, all operational. The next thing we have to do is go to production, working with a production facility down in Sarasota. And I've got the numbers. We need about $90,000 to get this into a full production. That's not counting the cost of each light. We're roughly about $300 to build this light, between $300 and $350, depending on scale. And we're going to retail for $900. Most of these underwater lights right now are between $350 and $600, and that's with the wire going through the hull. With the cost that you save on installation, we feel like $900 is a good retail buy for that. And then Indiegogo, we're looking at crowdfunding, potentially Kickstarter, and working on a video even as we speak for that. If you know anybody that has test boats and wants to be a first to put these on, please direct them to our website. You can sign up and be a tester for this and give us some feedback on how it's going. All right, that's it. Any questions?
Yeah. Man, I'm blown away. I've leveraged your tactic, but use my credentialing and get in the room and then turn it over to my smart son.
Yeah, he's the brains of the outfit.
Yeah, I like that. Is there 2 questions? Is there a life expectancy on the bub? And number 2, Are they pressure rated? I know the size of vehicles vessels will determine how far under the water line. Then that should factor in how much pressure the bulb's under. I'm not a science guy, but
that's it.
Yeah,
you got it. There's a rating called IP68. That's the
Okay.
highest one. IP67 is kind of sprinkle a little water. 68's the full down deep underwater. So we're going to go, when we go to production, IP68 rated and CE rated if you're familiar with the European standard. But if you want to sell in Europe, you've got to be CE rated also. And that starts at the design phase.
And how long till the bulb burns
So these
out?
are LED lights. They last a really long time. These are not incandescent, but these are LEDs. And I won't say they're indefinite, but LED light bulbs last a long time. But we will obviously pick some of the best. We've looked at Cree and some of the other really long, they're talking 10,000 hours. So it's only so much darkness, right, that you're at. It's going to be 10, 15 years before you should have to replace these.
Did you indicate that you had the patents?
Yes, this is patent pending right now. I will say this, so we filed for utility, it's still not back, but we're in the patent process right now.
So there's very little risk of someone beating you to market with this?
Yeah, well, so we have the patent, so if they want to go try to beat us, then they've got to deal with the patent that we filed. So once you put that line in the sand, anything that comes after that,
Sure.
we own.
Good deal.
And another thing I'll add too, we're working, so this does not work on a metal hull because of the way it's being done. I won't get into the proprietary stuff. We actually are working on a method now where you can go through a metal hull, and that would be another additional patent we put on top of that, and good luck them figuring that out. I'm an RF guy with 17 years experience, and that's not easy to do. I will say that.
Is there any kind of hull design that would prohibit putting these lights on?
So one of the things we looked at now, the transoms are about 3 inches thick.
Yep.
If you look at this, I may be able to pull that a little bit, but you get over about an inch, it kind of goes away. So I've got about this much gap right now. I would scale it up a little larger to get the thicker hulls. 3, 4 inches should be easily achievable. The larger boats too would probably want a larger light.
Right.
This is kind of the under 50-foot light. If you get to those yachts, 100, 200 feet yacht, they probably want a light about like this. So scaling that up would be really easy.
So is there any commercial application?
Yeah, interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. Wow, you feel like you're part of the group. So as we were talking to people about this, pools. So there are fiberglass drop-in pool shells you've probably seen coming down the highway.
Yeah.
They typically don't have lights. You could actually put those, those lights epoxied, or if you already had an in-ground pool. We were looking at the lazy river here at the hotel. One of the lights was out and it's really dark because they space them about every 50, 60 feet. They could dig down on the ground side, put our transmitter, and you've got a light right there. Real easy fix. Don't have to drain the water. Don't have to drill a hole in the side of your pool. So pools is one, spas, hot tubs. You want to add some lights and don't want to drill a hole, buy one of these and do it yourself, and you got a light in your hot tub.
What about commercial shipping?
Commercial shipping.
Big boats?
You talking about for like they would want lights for the safety?
Yeah.
Yeah, safety and security. When I talked to a couple of big yacht guys, the security, the underwater swimmer.
Get real big.
Yeah. Well, obviously we do that. They're metal hull boats, so we'd have to have our metal product before we went to that. If you're talking about the big tankers, yeah, those are metal. We'd have to have our metal product going, which we're working on right now. But
So
good
say
question.
this takes off. The ability of that facility in Sarasota to scale to this kind of thing, I would imagine you'd like to keep production local and here, but have you looked at other avenues? I mean, $300 to $350 for manufacturing is probably a cost of doing it in the U.S.
So we're first of all, family run, veteran owned. I want to do U.S. built. If you feel this light compared to that cheap, I'll say Chinese light right here, it's plastic. It's very cheap feeling. When you feel our lights, it's quality. I've got my name on the company, so I want to make sure it's quality. I'd like to keep U.S. manufacturing where it's at. There's a pretty large manufacturer from Tampa, outside of Tampa, you probably know who they are, that can take the really large loads. So I would go to them. I've got some contacts at that company. I would go to them and say, hey, if we get a really large order, that's where I'm going. And they're an international developing company that can do this in their sleep and put out 1 million pieces with no problem. But right now I want to keep it kind of local in the Sarasota group. They can do low to mid, LRIP and all the way to the mid production, maybe even the larger. We'll see how they do. So.
What would be like mid-production? You mentioned like $900 per light. What's that full run of production?
Right, so I've priced out a 500-piece order just to get started, and that would be our LRIP, just to get enough out to the OEMs. After that, it'd just be depending on what the orders come in, but I would say a low to mid would be in the thousands per month. And then when you get above that, I would look at larger folks. Obviously, I'll use them until they say, hey, no moss, and then go to a larger group. But I've got connections at that large group that will have no problem. And then, of course, we'll have to diversify at one point because you can't have one production facility. But they're global, so I think we could work that out.
So are you talking to OEMs right now?
Yes. So I don't know if I could mention them right now, but there are some large ones in the state of Florida that we're talking with, more on the upscale side, and we are in conversations. We're looking at a 6-month trial with one of them, so we're going to try to get the paperwork for that. They're going to do 6 months, see how it does on the boat. If it does well, then we'll go from there.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. Thank you.